All right, folks, good evening. We are going to get started today. We will be doing an administrative meeting. Thank you, community members, for joining. I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 7:06 p.m. And today is March 20th. So just a little bit about admin meetings in case folks have not joined one. It's run very differently than a regular meeting. At an admin meeting, it's primarily a commissioners meeting. General public is invited, and we will take comments upon chair discretion. I believe Commissioner Gosselin put that in the announcement. This is administrative work for us to get through, so we kind of do that so we can get through the work. We have a lot on the agenda for this admin meeting, just to kind of go through some of the things that we're going to be coming up in the near and short term, as well as tech help and things like that. When we get to a portion of the agenda, because there is a portion where we're going to be discussing personnel matters and oh gosh, this thing disappeared on me again.
What?
The screen. Why does it keep doing that? It's the weirdest thing. All right, when we get to personnel matters, I got to figure out how to get back to the
Well, we didn't see you, so you're still on Zoom.
Yeah, no, it disappeared from my computer screen. It's the weirdest thing. I don't see so I was looking at the agenda and now it took me away from the screen where I see you guys. But so personnel matters and any legal issues, it will we'll go back. Okay, I think I found it. Yeah. We'll have to dismiss the general public from the meeting because by law that has to be closed session. So we generally do that at the very end, so you guys could hear everything that you need to listen to or want to listen to. But when we get down to personnel stuff, I'll let you know that at that point we go into a closed session, and that is all we talk about is personnel or legal. And part of that is a hiring process that we're getting ready to do, so we don't want to be unfair to candidates. And we do have an announcement out in the general public, so there's going to be some things that we're going to have to discuss. So with that said, Peter, can I ask you to go off the agenda, because if I switch, I don't know what's going on with my computer and I didn't print it out. I don't want to switch and lose my screen again.
You were asking me to send you the agenda?
No, just go off the first item. If you could call the first item out for us.
Why don't we just do, although the audience is a pretty familiar group, and we might start with the...
You want to screen share? What do you want to do?
I want to just do commissioner introductions.
Okay.
So I'm Peter Gosselin. I'm the commissioner for District 6, which is largely the west side of Connecticut, and glad to have this meeting scheduled and going.
And I'll go from my screen left to right. So I'm Lisa Gore, Chair ANC 34G and Commissioner for ANC 34G01. Welcome, everyone. Commissioner Nash.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Nash, and I'm the Commissioner for Single Member District 03, which is to the east of Connecticut Avenue and south of McKinley, basically.
Commissioner Sherman.
Good evening, everybody. Bruce Sherman, District 2. Welcome.
And Commissioner Ferguson.
Hi, everyone. Zach Ferguson from Single Member District 07. I'm also the treasurer. Hi.
And Commissioner Zeldin.
Hi, I'm Michael Zeldin, Section 4, Single Member District 4, which is Lafayette and the environment around it.
And Commissioner Lynch.
Hi, Peter Lynch, SMD 05.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Okay, first topic up for tonight, Commissioner Gosselin.
Yeah, we're going to discuss under the category of near-term special meetings and issues. The first thing we need to discuss is the proposed zoning changes for the community center library site and the rest of Upper Connecticut Avenue, the commercial corridor. You received today, and I posted on the listserv, Nextdoor, Chatter, and Chevy Chase Google Group, the agenda for our special meeting March 27th, a week from today, where we'll get a presentation from OP of the zoning proposal, which is before the zoning commission and set down for an April 29th hearing. And we've said to each other at our regular meetings repeatedly, there's going to be a wide variety of views in the community about this proposal. We'll start hearing them again starting next Wednesday. But I think we need to. I think we're agreed. We're probably going to need at least another or a couple of other special meetings to discuss this as we formulate a resolution. I think the sense of the commission is that we need that resolution by the time of the April 29th zoning commission hearing.
Mhm.
So that's the sort of first order of business. The next is under this category of kind of get our ducks in a row for handling the nearest term issues, is to talk about the historic district, the community center library RFP, and perhaps some other near-term issues. We have a bunch of rising issues in the Lafayette field reconstruction and bioretention basins, and some legal challenges in the school budgets. And
Hey.
let's just start with zoning.
Yeah.
So go ahead, and Lisa, I will send you a copy of the agenda.
Okay. I was just going to say, who is taking the lead on that resolution?
I guess I'm prepared to, if nobody else wants to. I mean, it's the corridor, so Peter Lynch and I both have a substantial interest in it. But frankly, if this is going to change, this has the potential to change the corridor over time substantially, and so I think the whole community is going to have an interest in that. So in any case, I'm happy to take lead on that resolution. That's
Okay.
Guys, just a quick question on our procedure here. On a matter like this, do we want to talk tonight about what we're going to do? Meaning, yes, we need a resolution, as Peter's identifying. Do we also, at what point do we want to have an initial conversation among us about how we're seeing it? So that, you know, we have the custom of one commissioner or maybe two commissioners having a stab at a resolution and it's drafted, then people comment on it. It might be helpful to have a preliminary conversation where everybody weighs in and whoever is drafting it from the very beginning can hear what people's views are.
Yeah, that's fine. Bruce, my suggestion though is right off the bat, do this very practical thing, which is let's pick some dates. If we think that there's a need for more than March 27th, and I think we do, so sort of getting dates on the calendar would help us.
Okay.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
let me add this too. So right now, I don't have an opinion to give right now. I don't have the information in from zoning, and I will tell you the same thing I've told the previous commission. I do not like for the commission to have substantial discussions outside of a regular meeting. And whether that's opinions, not opinions, if we're having like a bunch of substantial discussion about a topic, especially one this I don't want to say contention, but you know, something that people really want to hear our views on, I prefer to do that in a regular meeting. So I cannot stop you guys. That's my piece of advice. We have gotten into trouble with this before with the community in the last commission. And you know, that's why we did not have administrative meetings, because they turned into an alternative format to have these discussions, to get stuff together, and the majority of the community is not there. So I know we're kind of allowed to do that, but we just we gotta really think about how far we want to cross the line on that. And I try to play it as conservative as possible. And I know and I respect that this is a new commission and that you guys might, feel differently coming in, but just keep that in mind that that sometimes can get us into trouble and has gotten us into trouble.
So I agree with that, Lisa. And then the next thing I would think about is the meeting on the 27th, and OP is going to be attending. And I gave some feedback, Peter, as you saw today, to the draft agenda, that the time for commissioners' questions of 10 minutes wasn't, in my view, enough time.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the occasion in a public meeting to share some of our thoughts about how we see this, at least initially.
Mhm.
So we might want to take a look again at the agenda in that case.
I change it, Bruce.
Oh, no, that's fine. But and also to Peter Gosselin, to your point about a special meeting in which we go into greater depth to inform the resolution that then would be taken up, right?
Mhm.
Can I suggest, first of all, responding to you and also to a sort of standing critique by Jim Nash that we don't get to do enough asking of questions and sort of talking among each other about where we want to go. I basically split the time for the special meeting in half. I gave the public a little more, but by just a couple minutes, so that I responded to that. So I do think that we're going to need several meetings on this issue. And one suggestion I have for a subsequent meeting. The Office of ANCs has just hired a land use lawyer to provide us with technical advice, but I hope process advice too. And so we might want to do a subsequent session where and perhaps with the land use people from OAG too, where we sort of say, well, okay, what are our options as we go into this zoning commission hearing process? So
That's
we
a good
know
idea.
at our disposal.
That's a good idea.
So there's a couple other things that we want to, I think, bear in mind. One is that, as you will recall, we had issues with the zoning commission's handling of the set-down hearing. We didn't get notice of it.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, I wrote a letter that Michael and Peter Lynch signed on to the zoning commission addressing this issue. So that's just something for us to be mindful of. It's not only what we think about OP's proposed amendments, but what we think about how the zoning commission has handled this matter that we want to take up. Do we know even kind of notionally what OP has in mind? I know they're going to make a presentation on the 27th, but what will that consist of? Do we know?
We don't really, but I think it's just a recap of what we've already heard. Joel Lawson, the associate director of OP, came before us in October after they sent it up to the zoning commission and briefed. So we've already seen this proposal. It's not changed from then, but I thought, the thought behind next Wednesday's meeting is that it's getting real now. So just getting OP to say, these are the basic elements of the proposal was a good starting point, a curtain raiser for the discussion over the next month.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, please.
You said we got no notice of this. We did get notice. I think we didn't get the proper 30 days notice by the statute. We actually, we had emailed around. We actually had it before one of our meetings. So I think the point is we didn't get the proper 30 days notice that ANCs are entitled to.
Right. No, I remember asking, in fact, I asked you, Lisa, if you got the notice in the email, and you indicated that no, we hadn't gotten the notice. So that's kind of, you're right, Zach. That's what I was referring to. The other thing about this, of course, is that we want to maximize public participation, which we're discussing right now, and we're all in agreement on that, particularly because, I mean, we all recognize this. The zoning is for all the marbles, for all intents and purposes. You know, everything else is secondary. If once the zoning takes place as it's proposed, the height limits that would go into effect, it'll be by right development, and developers can basically build, as they say, to the envelope or to the dimensions, and we won't have a say in that. Interestingly, as I look back over this, and I recently reread the small area plan, the small area plan talks about lots of design elements that are meant to ameliorate or soften the impact of tall structures. But Joel Lawson, in his brief, references those and acknowledges zoning is not meant to address those elements. He acknowledges he doesn't say it's a weakness, but in that part of his brief, he's speaking about community concerns, and he speaks to that. So I certainly want our community to have an opportunity to talk with us and we with OP. If the zoning can't address it, when and how do those things get addressed? So I just mentioned that as something that we want to, I think, be mindful of.
Okay. Peter Lynch, then Peter Gossel.
So we need to get a resolution, if we have a resolution by the 26th of April, is that right?
29.
29th of April. And then we'll have a meeting on the 8th, and like a regular meeting on the 8th and the 22nd of April, is that right?
Not on the 22nd. The 8th is our only a regular meeting in April.
Really?
So no 22nd?
The holiday.
Is it?
Okay.
I have it down that we have a meeting. What's wrong with the 22nd?
It's Passover, and I don't think we decided that when we did our meeting schedule in January that we would not have a meeting. We'd have one meeting in April. April 8th is what I have on the calendar, my calendar.
You're right. You're right. Well,
But
then we're going to have to schedule things prior, before, and after that. That's yes. Anyway,
What I was going to suggest was that we're going to get the presentation at the special meeting. My idea would then be to have, like, set aside the 8th as total public comment, just hear from as many neighbors as possible, and then the following meeting, if we had it, I guess we don't have it now, but that would be a time for us to weigh, debate, and talk about the different priorities that we may have, and then get a resolution, hopefully, by that 29th. But now we don't have that meeting, so I don't know what we should do.
Well, we could always call it. We could always call a special meeting. We gotta allow time for other commission business, including we're coming up on budget testimony.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to be approving testimony, but we could certainly call a special meeting to do that.
So what about the 17th? I can't do the following Monday, the 15th. My son qualified for the Boston, so he's going to run that marathon, and I'm going to be there. But I can do, for example, the following week, the 17th. That would give us something like 8 or 10 days to get ready before the 29th.
Mm-hmm. I can do the 17th.
Yeah, I can also do the 17th. Again, just thinking out loud about how we benefit the public on this. Peter Goslin, what you indicated in terms of what we anticipate OP to be doing, which is basically to go back over what they've already presented to us and say, here's what we've given to the zoning commission. It's all part of the public record. We've all seen it. But that means then that we can once again socialize that with the community. Some people may not have seen that. We can try to synthesize it a bit. Their entire packet before the zoning commission is a lot to wade through. There are summary tables that we know that are in there. Whatever we can do to help the public understand what's at issue and what this means. And then we'd have opportunity for lots of community input and questions.
And I just weighing in behind you, Bruce. From my memory of the way the discussion went during the small area plan, particularly towards the end, there was a great deal of talk about, oh, well, if we do a special zoning district, then these issues that are not normally in zoning can be in zoning. you know, design, materials, et cetera, et cetera. And it is, there's a certain bait and switch quality to what happened subsequent to that, which was that suddenly we're being told, oh no, this is not an appropriate subject for zoning. And I'm not sure how we deal with that, because those matters discussed in the small area plan went a distance to help convince people that there could be a design that would be consonant with the rest of the neighborhood, and if the right materials were used and so forth. And that's not going to be in any requirement. It's apparently legally enforceable, as we now understand what the zoning is.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have a special meeting on the 17th. Is that kind of,
I'll be out of town. It's a spring break, so you're gonna miss a lot of families maybe. But I can join virtually.
Yikes.
But if you're looking for community involvement of young parents, spring break probably not a great option.
I agree.
Spring break, is that far off? I thought spring break was between March and April. I mean, at the end of March to early April.
I believe DCPS is starts April 13th.
yeah, it's a
Or,
little, CPS is a little later.
Yeah.
What about the following week where we would have had a meeting, but just not on that Monday?
The 10th.
No, she's talking about the 22nd. Yeah, my only problem with that, Peter, is that it's getting us awful close to needing to draft, and I mean, we then need yet another meeting to draft and vote
And
on.
that's Passover. I thought that's why we didn't do
Yeah,
that.
right, it's not good. Yeah, that's not good.
Passover.
Why don't we look at April, that very week? We have a meeting on the 8th. That's going to take up other business, not just this, right? So why don't we think about the 11th? I mean, I know that's just 2 meetings in that week, but we're gonna have to, the following week is DCPS spring break, and the following week there is Passover, and so we're then up against the deadline. So I would just suggest maybe the 10th or the 11th of April.
I can do definitely the 11th. And we have a field task force meeting on the 10th. So
Okay.
the 11th might be the best.
April 11th. We have a what on the 10th?
ANC field task force meeting.
The Murray Field, Peter.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. So we would do that, and then we would meet again the 17th. Is that what we're saying? Or the 17th is what?
No, what we're talking about is obviously the special meeting already booked on the 27th, the regular meeting on the 8th of April, and then another special meeting on OP, the proposed zoning amendments on the 11th of April. Nothing the following week, since that's DCPS spring break, and nothing the week after that, since that's Passover. We're done, and we come up against the deadline on the 29th.
Yeah, so when are we going
What
to?
is the purpose of the April 11th meeting?
Well, we have a lot of business to take care of on the 8th, so we can't have a full discussion of a full airing of either public or commissioner views on the subject. We need to start, as Peter Lynch described, we need to start talking among ourselves about what the resolution should say. So we then, the obvious thing to do is make that meeting the one where we discuss it. And then we have a couple of weeks of it, somewhere or other, we have to vote on a resolution after we've sort of worked it down to something that we think we can get a majority for.
Okay, so the purpose of the April 11th meeting is for us to discuss the proposed resolution on the zoning changes. Is that right?
Yes, I don't think we're going to go without any public comment, but yes.
So, okay, so the 11th will have some public comment and then some discussion among commissioners, but no vote on the resolution.
Oh, I don't think we can draft it with just that would mean that we are trying to draft it essentially with the commentary that we get next Wednesday. And without the commissioners having like brooded it about themselves. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Give an opinion about what it should be, but I mean,
No.
I don't think I can get something that we can get something that everybody would agree to.
Okay, so in other words, then we're talking about scheduling 2 special meetings. One on the 11th and then a second one when we vote on the resolution.
Can we not do some meeting the week of the Passover week of the 22nd, like at the 25th?
Well, alternatively, given that we would have a special public meeting on the 11th, when DCPS is still in session and young families would still be here, if we wished on the following week to look at voting on the resolution to avoid Passover, that is also possibly an option, the 18th or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the meeting on the 11th would be a little bit more time for community comment. And the meeting on the following week would be tilted more towards our discussing and voting. Is that what people? That makes sense to me.
No,
Okay.
but Jim, I think what we're talking about is a lot of public commentary on the March 27th.
Oh,
Big discussion among us on April 11th. Out of that comes we hope, some consensus among us about what language should look like in a resolution. There's a bunch of cobbling in the following days.
okay,
We take up text on the 18th.
okay,
And that's, I think, the idea.
all right. So in a way, 3 meetings on this project of the resolution.
Hmm. And just to underscore the point, if given our experience with the attendance of young families at our meetings at any time, if we wish to solicit particular segments of the population and their interest in a given issue, I think we have to look at alternative means of doing that to broaden the outreach and the engagement. Separate topic, I know. We're not likely to get a lot of young families no matter when we hold a meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going to be 3 special meetings on one It's very hard for me to do this many nights, and I understand why my fellow parents don't come to these meetings and can't make them. And so I hope we emphasize non-meeting outreach too. It's great to hear from people live who have the ability to attend live, but I hope we don't exclude people who are not able to attend weekday night meetings, because it's tough. It's tough for me. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, and I'm really worried about having substantive votes at special meetings that commissioners can't make. We had a 3-2 vote on the Civic Core on a date when I told everyone I can't make that date because of family obligation. So I don't love the idea of doing special meetings on substantive votes. But if 7 commissioners say they can be there on that date, then that's fair enough. But I would really like us to avoid when having narrow split votes when multiple commissioners are absent.
Yeah, I was also bothered by that, Zach, what you just said, for some of the same reasons. The one comforting thing to remember though is that a vote like that carries a lot less weight than a vote of 6 or 7 in favor.
I'm not sure I follow that, Jim, but nonetheless, I kind of get your notional idea there.
No, if we commit from what
yeah.
I've heard, a 7-0 vote carries more weight than a 3-2 vote.
Well, it does in one person's mind, perhaps, but technically it's a resolution passed by the commission. But whatever, I hear you.
I hear Zach's point, and I think it's a good one. I wonder if we have any room to. This is just a mountain of issues to come to OP and say, look, we have one regular meeting in April, and we want to give this the best possible attention. We want the community to weigh in on this, and having 2 special meetings where some commissioners may not be able to make it, where residents generally aren't attuned to that scheduling is just not a great situation, and asking for some sort of different timeline. Do you think we have room for that, to ask that?
The deciding factor here is not, it's the zoning. And we can ask until we're.
Peter, we can't hear you. You got to talk up.
I said the deciding factor here is not OP, it's the zoning commission. The zoning commission has set this thing down for April 29th. And the only way to buy us more time is to move that date. And I think just political reality is Chairman Hood is not going to move that day.
No.
So, I mean, that's just the reality. And to Zach's point, look, I understand the frustration. I mean, I'm not now a parent of young children, but I was, and I was a single parent of young children, and you know, it's really difficult. But you know, once we finish this discussion, we're going to move on to historic district. And
Yeah.
we know that's going to take. We're going to need to find ways to get a lot of public input, and I just don't know how we do it, other than meetings where, if we can build enough trust among each other, you believe that we're, you know, this, when we report that this is what people said, and you have time to go back to tapes. If you can't make the meeting, you know, we give you a sense, we who are there give you a sense of what happened at that meeting and what our best formulation is on the basis of it.
Commissioner Nash.
Yeah. Well, this, maybe I'm jumping the gun here to another agenda topic, but I also think, based on what I observed during the discussion on the Civic Core, we could use our time on this public comment more efficiently. If we could limit people who talk to at least 3 minutes, but if there are tons of people, maybe cut it down to 2. I don't know, and then really hold that, because what I heard a lot of repetition at those meetings. And, you know, you say you want to hear from people, but to build on Zach's point, you're only hearing from the people who can attend these meetings. And a lot of times they say the same thing again and again, both during the time they're talking, and then someone else comes up and says basically the same thing. There wasn't a lot of reflection or back and forth either. It's just people kind of holding forth. So that is important to do, but I believe, having been in other meetings, we could do it a little more efficiently, and that could cut down on meetings, to Zach's point also.
Okay, let's go to Gosselin, and then I think we need to make a decision on this, folks. It's like 7:38, and we have not gotten through this topic. Go on, Peter.
I was gonna say to Jim, that's democracy for you. I mean, you know, I mean, it's not a neat process, you know. I mean, we're not asking people to like carve up the various arguments and then make them in a sequential way, each different from the other. It's kind of voting with your feet to the microphone. I do think, and also, Jim, that's further on our meeting process issues, which you brought up several times, we have on this agenda. So I do think that we ought to find a way to decide about these meetings. And to Zach's point, I just say, you know, we're going to go right from this to historic district, and I think we're going to have special meetings. Maybe we want to pair these, half a meeting with one issue, half a meeting with the other issue. But we're going to now, the historic district is slightly different in that we think the timeline actually stretches further out into the year than the proponents of the district wanted to. So I think we may be able to extend that one in a way that we're not able to extend the zoning one because of the zoning commission. So can we decide about these meetings?
Yeah, let's go to Commissioner Sherman, right?
Yeah, just very quickly, just to recall on the OP matter specifically, and as regards hearing from young families, 805 families with children under 18 took the community center library survey and expressed their views on building height, among all the other issues. So let's just keep in mind that we do have a vast body of input from a very large segment of the community. And I would also add, whenever we want to get input at scale, do a survey. It doesn't have to be the way we did it with the survey committee, drawing it out for months on end. It can be much faster than that. I do them all the time in my single member district and SurveyMonkey. It's not brain surgery. And we can do that and get a much broader sample of people's opinions very quickly. In fact, those families like doing them because it does give them an opportunity to weigh in ways they'll never attend a meeting or, what have you.
Okay, folks, what do y'all want to do? I agree with Peter. This date is probably the date. I don't think we stand a snowball's chance, and you know what, of changing the date.
Right.
That's going to trigger too much. And if I was with the agencies, I don't know if I'd change it because we got, DMPED changing dates on an RFP to accommodate. So it's pushing back a lot of things, but I just don't think that's realistic with the agencies.
So
So let me suggest the 11th and the 18th. We, in the subsequent discussion, we may decide to split those special meetings between zoning and historic, but get those down on the calendar so I can start reserving community center space and getting agendas out.
I'm good with those days.
Other commissioners?
Peter, I'm having trouble hearing you again. I think you're too far from the speaker.
Let's agree to April 11th and April 18th for special meetings, so I can reserve community center space and so I can get agendas out. We may, in the subsequent discussion, decide that we want to actually have half and half meetings with the historic.
Isn't not April 11th a regular meeting? How can it be a special meeting?
It's not a regular meeting.
8th is April
That's
8th.
on Thursdays. Both are Thursdays.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at March. Okay. 11, yeah. Okay. And then the vote, so 11 and 18 are special meetings, and then the vote would be when?
18th.
Okay, well, what about, could we not make the vote on the 22nd?
Not going to meet on the 22nd.
Passover. We just decided.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Is there a chance to do the 17th and not the 18th? Is that possible?
It's okay by me.
Wait, the 17th is, oh no, yeah, that's right. We could do that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about the 11th and the 17th.
Thank you.
That's
Okay.
good.
Do we envision these starting at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m.?
What's your preference?
My preference is for 7 p.m., but I know that cuts off, that makes them shorter and, so I'm happy to do 6. I'm going to be joining virtually for the second one or the 17th. So,
Yeah, I just listen. I think I'm the one talking to the community center staff all the time.
Yeah.
We've gone a distance mending our fences there by starting at 6. And look, the reality with our meetings is that saying they're going to be an hour and a half is just blowing smoke, right? I mean, we never from 7 to 8:30. It's just not going to happen.
So what time, Peter? Are you okay with 6?
6 to 8:30, the 11th and the 17th.
Okay. 6 to 8:30.
6 to 8. Okay.
Okay. You want to move quickly to the next thing?
The next,
Bruce, did you have something?
These are hybrid meetings, correct?
Say
These
again?
these special meetings are hybrid.
hybrid. Yeah, that's right. I mean, these are, yeah, I think we got to have hybrid. I mean, look, unless you guys think it differently.
I'm for hybrid.
No, yeah, they should be hybrid.
Okay. I'll say, so let me just put this in the calendar.
So it's the 11th and the 17th, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, starting at 6.
Starting at 6. Okay.
You'd say to 6 to 8, but
Okay.
we'll never make it. And so, so the next discussion is on historic district, and maybe this is just like bureaucratic, sleight of hand, but scheduling even more meetings. And look, on historic district, I think the reality is this thing is going to extend out into the late summer. The decision by the Historic Preservation Review Board is not going to come to the late summer or early fall. So one thing we might do here is take a deep breath and just say, I mean, this is going to, I'm sure Mary Rouse is going to be upset about this. The proponents are going to be upset about this, but the reality is that this is not an issue that it's going to come before the Historic Preservation Review Board immediately. So one way to cope with this one in terms of simple matter of scheduling is simply say we're not going to handle it in April. But we've, I think, said to each other something very much like we've said to each other about zoning, which is this is a very important issue for the community, and that we're going to need to get community input before we formulate a resolution.
Right. And we also need to discuss whether or not we're going to do a survey on this, as many people have suggested.
Yeah, and a vote on this, as many
Right.
people.
My suggestion for meetings is to schedule them far in advance. And I think, as I mentioned before in email, I think, you know, this impacts businesses in a different way that affects single family homeowners. It affects condos and apartment buildings differently. So if you could say, hey, May 15th, we have a special meeting. It's virtual. I say virtual because I believe the Conservancy has had all their meetings virtually. They have not been having in-person, you know, block by block meetings. And also, you know, we've seen a lot of young families join, and it's easier. So you can have a 7 p.m. start time, so you don't have to worry about being cut off. But they're also informational. They're not commissioners voting. But I would say, you know, announce them, say, you know, May we have this group is going to be ask their questions. We can invite Child's Play or all this, you know, Chevy Chase Main Street for the business one. And so that way we are kind of alerting the community well in advance. We're going to have these informational sessions so people can get their answers, you know. So that would be my suggestion for, you know, not trying to rush and, you know, say, here's 7 days notice, you know, hope your calendar's free, but really set out the summer for a few informational meetings.
Okay, the one thing from experience from the past term of this commission, I'd just say is that you get anywhere close to June 30th and the pace slows immensely. People have summer plans and it gets hot. So I do think that, you know, we need to think about sort of sometime in August, you know, up until sort of June 30th and then sometime in August, but July is and early August is so slow to get people out.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like, you know, just like a Wednesday, you know, virtual only, so people can join if they're somewhere else, or, you know, it's a, you know, not a weekend, but and again, I say virtual also because I know, you know, that the burden on the commission to do the hybrid, I'm really on Peter to untangle, you know, it's more realistic to do multiple special meetings if they do virtual. That's my suggestion for informational meetings, but you know, how we pursue any kind of survey would be a separate issue.
Well, okay, and then how we come to some sort of comedy among ourselves about what we want to say about that, probably we need to meet. I mean, in person. Peter Lynch has made this point before that in-person meetings seem to work better, and I'm on these big decisions. I think we just need to meet in person to figure out whether. Anyways, so I guess there's sort of 3 things on the table. 1 is informational sessions. 2 is a survey, and I would add a survey and a vote. And 3 is a session where we hash out what or whether there's any consensus among us about would let us pass a resolution.
Zach, if I understood you correctly, you were proposing that we outline a series of information sessions well in advance so that people can plan around those. And we look ahead, anticipating that there would not be a hearing before the HPRB probably until fall. So we have the time to do that. And
Yeah.
okay.
And I was watching Kim Williams, and she said, you know, these processes usually take a year or 2. That was HPO's Kim Williams was saying, you know, this is not a 2-month or 4-month compressed thing. She was saying it's a 1 or 2 year, and I think they want to see that community outreach and information component. So I think this is kind of in line with what HPO has in mind. I think it would be helpful to them for us to see action within the ANC. I know we've already done things, we've had meetings, but I think it would be helpful to them for their planning purposes.
And then in terms of whenever we would field a survey, it would follow logically these information sessions that people have a lot more information and they can respond. Yeah, okay.
And again, and one thing, even if you're on vacation, you're out of town, what's nice about the informational sessions is you can watch them later. Just like I think we did that great webinar on affordability in historic districts. I watched it, years later. It was helpful. So these webinars I think will be useful even if you're not there live presenting. And I don't think, if all 7 commissioners can't make it, that's okay. It's, you can watch it a few days later or submit your questions in advance. So,
So who's going to pull this?
I think that, so I'd be happy to get, since I'm familiar with the dynamic of someone volunteering for, or suggesting a lot of work. So I'm happy to propose some dates and some sessions. I could send those around to the commissioners and see if the topics and the dates make sense. And I'd be happy to lead them, make sure HPO is invited, make sure, the condo buildings, the small businesses, whichever meeting, but I defer, of course, to the commissioners who's historic districts.
You need to put it with us, but putting together a schedule and some suggestions. I'd suggest that Bruce and I work together, or Bruce and Peter and I work together to, 1, talk about a survey, but also 2, to talk about this issue of vote. A vote issue in this area is very complicated, as was evidenced from when you look back at what happened in 2008. There's an argument that everybody in the Chevy Chase community should vote, but there's really an argument that everybody in the proposed district should have the real votes. And then there's the question of, besides homeowners, condo owners, apartment dwellers, how do we devise that? So that it's a more complicated issue than just the kind of surveying anybody who will come to the till to check the boxes. So I'm happy to work with Bruce. Are you interested in that? And Peter?
Yeah. And to your point, Peter, the survey can readily capture the data. You're addressing how we interpret it and what we do with it, which I totally understand. I mean, we very successfully asked people which single member district they lived in. We got accurate information on that. Do they own a home? Do they live in an apartment? Do they rent? What have you? So we can get all that information and then parse it as we wish. But I certainly understand the idea and the overweighting of people who live in the historic district. No question about that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's it could, I believe last time it was not anonymous. It was property owner by property owner, and it's pretty hard to, if you get 5 votes for one property, you can kind of tell it's. So I think with this, if there was a survey here, we would not have the concerns about anonymity as much, or we could discuss that, could be discussed, but there's 800 properties in the district or so. It's not as nebulous as anyone clicking a link.
Right. Although, again, to be fair on that, we didn't have any corruption of the data coming in on this one, but I hear you.
Well, so why don't we do this? Why don't we just say that Zach will come to us with a proposal about info sessions. And once we have that kind of schedule, basically agreed on that, then Peter and Bruce and I can meet and talk about survey and voting. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
You good with this? Lynn? You out there?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right. Have you got the agenda in front of you now? I sent it to you, Lisa.
Yep.
So when I wrote this agenda, we were still having the next topic is Community Center Library RFP.
Yeah.
That date, the date in the agenda is April 18th. That's now been extended to June 18th. Thank the Lord. So I look, I don't know what you, I don't quite know what to do in this period here. I mean, just as Lisa noted, and as I sent around a notice, some of these developers, these potential developers, potential bidders are already advertising to the community and asking for community engagement and so on and so forth. Maybe our role is to sort of let that process work itself and to wait for the proposals to come in. I mean, I'm not sure, I don't know what you all think about what we should be doing between now and June. It's probably not June 18th, the DEMPED has made very clear that they will look at the numbers, look at the finances, look at a great deal about we're not going to get every one of the proposals presented to us publicly. DEMPED's going to be doing a vetting of them first. Who knows how long that takes? But anyways, what are people's feelings about what we should be doing, preparing, whether we should be preparing for the RFP proposals to draw?
I mean, this is downtime. I mean, we're at a stage where the developers are working on their, RFPs. And unless they do something publicly that involves us, it's not too much for us to do during this stage of the process. So the next big stage for the community is once those proposals become public. So, I mean, right now, I would just say we sit tight, not interfere in the process, let the process work itself out. If the developers hold public meetings, make sure we attend. I mean, we're on their back right now. I would not, this is a legal process at this point.
I just say one thing. If the new date is June 18th and DEMPED doesn't release to us, to the public, proposals until July, I'm going to throw a stink because
Why?
July is, I mean, well, let me just say this. If they don't release them until July and then they expect a decision by August 15th, they're doing it right in the dead zone, the deep of summer, and that's not fair to this community. So
Hey, Peter, I understand, and you can do whatever you want. The bottom line is they have a legal timeline. I mean, you can raise a stink, but if it takes 45 days, everything in an RFP, and Michael, you are an attorney, please speak on this if you want. But from what I understand, working with many RFPs and supervising a contractor officer representative, everything's to a timeline. It's, they have so many days for the RFP to come in, so many days to respond. Everything is timeline. So I don't think that, and we can ask DEMPED to get a clear understanding of what that timeline is. I believe they should be able to share that with us when they plan on, how many days do they have to review it? How many days do they have to go into selection? And then when it's announced. But
Lisa,
I don't think they can say, okay, we're going to extend the timeline for this particular one, because if we announce it in July, people are going to be in vacation. You understand what I'm saying?
but
So
Lisa, they already extended the timeline just now to
I
June.
agree. So that's my whole point. We can't, I don't think we can say because a certain part of the process hits in a certain month that we can get mad that it hits in that month. I mean, if they're supposed to share it within 15 days or 10 days and they do that, and then responses are due from the community within a certain time frame that's set in legal standard, the only thing we can do is ask to extend. And
with all due respect, I must say that the experience I've read about with other projects, let us just take the Reeves Center, for example. The Reeves Center had a very tight RFP response schedule. And the city at some point decided, the mayor at some point decided, no, he didn't like that. And so then passed 2 years. Now, I think the reality is, I understand what you're saying about the quiet period we're in now. I accept that DemPed is not going to say anything useful to us while the RFP is out there. But for the period after they release things, if I am told that there's some legal deadline to respond, we're going to have public hearings, we're going to have charrettes, we're going to have pictures that let people understand what these various proposals would look like, how they fit in the community, how they operate. And that's going to take time. And I don't think, I'm fine with what you're saying, Lisa, up to the point of they've got the proposals in-house and they're releasing them. But it's that subsequent period that I think we need to stand strong for this community, being able to have time to wade through these things and get detailed presentations and mull it and talk among themselves. So that's my.
Yeah. And I think that is part of the process. And all I'm saying is check with DemPed on that before we start firing missiles. Bruce?
Yeah, so in the here and now, we're 1, 2, 3 months away from their due date. And we are in a position to do as the RFP asks, obviously, for there to be engagement with the bidders. We've already talked about this, and we've got the guidance from the ANC, and I think several of us have had conversations with prospective bidders. I've indicated that I would do a public opportunity for my constituents to weigh in for any bidders who want to field questions. So facilitating access as invited by the RFP for public to weigh in and engage with the bidders. We're the ANC representing the neighborhood in this regard, and anything that we can do proactively to advance that, I think, is all towards the good. We also, of course, and the bidders know this, at least I'm told by Urban Atlantic when I had a chat with them about participating in a public meeting, they had seen our survey, were very well aware of it. And of course, as we know, they're initiating their own survey. So there's activity they're undertaking. I think the question really is, in this period, what role do we want to play to facilitate access to our community and have our community have access to bidders to offer their views more than they've done already?
Yeah, I mean, if the commission wants to invite the development, I don't even know who the development teams are. I mean, they have until a certain amount of time to bid. So I think that's kind of tricky, because if we say want to host a open session to the community where we bring in the development teams, I mean, what if somebody puts in at the last minute and we've already held the meeting? So I just think this is very tricky logistically, to make sure that we are inclusive of everyone. That's why I just kind of prefer to let the development team handle their community engagement process, because I don't know, I don't want to leave anybody out. Maybe someone wants to put in at the last minute, who knows. But it could be that, Peter, what you're saying with engagement once those proposals come out, I mean, if you have a certain perspective of what those community meetings or what those charrettes look like, it takes a lot to plan. Maybe that's something that you want to start planning now and get an idea from DemPed what that timeline looks like. How does the engagement look with the community? Typically once those proposals are announced, we could start getting an idea of that and start working towards engagement process, post release. So that's something that you could consider also.
Well, I'm happy to do that, but Bruce, I think the point Bruce was making, and I'd love to hear from other commissioners, is that we could quite rightly see our duty as part of our duty of keeping the community informed and helping with community engagement is hosting sessions where developers talk to the public. I mean, I think Lisa is saying that it's a dicey proposition because it's very hard, among other things, to host those sessions without looking in some sense like we're favoring one over the other, particularly if there's somebody who comes in at the last minute and submits and hasn't had a session that we've been offering. Anyways, I think we ought to discuss that. This is the pre-June 18th period. I see Peter has his hand up.
Yep, Peter.
Yeah, Lisa, I hear you on the point about missing a potential bidder. I think the sense from many of these bidders, I've talked to two, I think at this point, and they want to know as much as they can, it seems. And so I think they would be receptive to a meeting where the community is telling them anything and everything they think should be at the site. And it really sort of seems like what we've always been pushing for from DIMPED and OP. And we got to a certain extent with those two sessions, but these folks seem very receptive to trying to understand the community desires for the site. And I think it would be advantageous for us to open that up and just let people share what they would like for it, and give everyone enough lead time to make the meeting, and before any bidder is chosen.
I don't disagree with that. I have no disagreement with that at all. You know, one, I'm concerned about logistics. This commission takes on a tremendous amount. I don't know how many development teams are out there, and I really don't want to miss a development team that has submitted near the end and we don't have time to do the same thing. It just, you know, this process has got to be fair to everybody. And that's just one of my concerns. I have no objection if and if I was a development team, I would find a way to schedule a meeting with the community immediately. I just don't know if the ANC should take on that role. That's my concern. Peter Gosselin.
Well, I just say that I'm sympathetic to Peter's point, and I do think that development teams can take self-help. If, you know, development team A comes in and does a community meeting that we host and we moderate, but we don't take a position on any of their proposals, I mean, B can see that and say, oh, that went well, and it's really making them look good, or, oh, that went terribly, and I don't want to have anything to do with it, and they can decide for themselves what they do. I mean, one problem, to Lisa's point about logistics, is that going into this, we were hearing from people who we know in the development area that there could be 6 or 10 or more bidders for this project. It's going to make it a mighty busy May, June. if we are, once we've obliged ourselves, once we've done one, we're kind of obliged to do the others, and that kind of makes it difficult. I mean, maybe we
You are definitely obliged.
bunch of meetings, you know, do a bunch of at one meeting, but it just you know, it could be end up a very messy process.
Bruce?
Just a thought in terms of how we would structure this. We work with DEMPED, understand the bidders that have expressed interest, ensure that they're notified, post a date, announce it publicly, and have it be to start one meeting where the bidders come and hear from members of the public who wish to express their views. I don't think we're committed to doing individual meetings with bidders, which would make it logistically very difficult, time consuming. We do a public meeting at which any bidder interested can come and listen to the public. And we just facilitate that access, and everybody is notified in sufficient notice, so no one's excluded. That's just a thought.
Reasonable.
So it's a special meeting, a special meeting of the ANC, but it's only one.
Today, it's not in April.
I mean,
Well, yeah.
it's not. It is multiple special meetings. I mean, if you have multiple bidders there, I mean, that's a lot. If you guys want to take that on, go ahead. I just think that's logistically and with what's going to happen in the community, the questions, the interact. You're talking a lot of work. I would say one meeting per development team at a minimum. So I just,
I think that's,
I just do not agree with that, and I prefer to let the development team take on their own roles.
Well, the thing about it is, Lisa, see, here's the thing. They're doing that work anyway. If they are doing that work anyway, we kind of facilitate it by bringing people together. There is obviously a fairly substantial overlap in terms of the questions. So they come and the questions are asked once, and that covers a number of questioners who have the same question. We could take the questions in advance from the community, have the bidders.
Bruce, I'm not debating. If you guys want to do it, have at it.
All right, well, I would hold my hand up because I feel this is such an important issue, and folks in the community, some folks want to weigh in, we'll see what the attendance would be. But I'm happy to help on it. As I said, I already talked to Urban Atlantic about doing something like this, and Vicky, I believe her name is, was receptive.
So I think that the biggest problem is making sure that we have fairness across the bidding.
Absolutely. 100%.
And
yep.
I don't know exactly how we ensure. So if Vicky is out of the gate first and we're running up against a tight timeline, and the ANC hosts a meeting where they get to present, but we just run out of time, not for bad faith, we just run out of time for us to do others. And then we have to vote on the proposals that they put forth, or make a recommendation if that's what our role is. I'm a little bit worried about the optics of that. I feel much more comfortable if we had if we facilitated the meetings or something that OP or whomever is running, and what we would do is be the advertising arm of their meetings, as long as they're doing that. Otherwise, what we could do is to say to all, but I don't know how we'd speak to all prospective bidders. That's the problem. If you put out a notice saying the ANC will entertain all prospective bidders at a all bidders forum on these 2 dates. You can come one or the other, and we can ask OP somehow to let that be part of the solicitation process. Then I feel more comfortable about it.
It already is, Michael. That's built into the RFP that the bidders are to engage the community. That's why we went to the ONC and asked them.
I understand that, Bruce. But what I'm saying is that they're not going out to the bidders and saying ANC is going to facilitate your meetings with the community by hosting a meeting on X date and Y date. Please let them know. So if you want to participate in them, that's what I'm saying. That's not what is notified. They're just saying on one-off basis they can speak to us. But
yeah,
it's just all I want to make sure is that the process is fair, and that we don't by inadvertence subject us to being, I don't know, we wouldn't be sued, but the process be challenged because of unfairness in the manner in which prospective bidders were treated.
And it happens all the time. It happens all the time. And that is why my suggestion is we do not, affiliate ourselves with this process. I mean,
but you guys, to be clear, OANC gave us the guidance, and their guidance to avoid the very conflict you were talking about, Michael, was not to meet with them individually. It wasn't not to meet with them at all. And the RFP, in fact, asked that we engage with them and asked that they engage with us. I think it's fairly straightforward. You hold 1 meeting or 2. All bidders are invited to attend these meetings. It's open, it's fair, it's publicly announced. There's no discrimination. There's no preferential treatment.
That is if we get them
Bruce, the only, you and I are not in disagreement. The only nuanced point that I'm trying to make is you say you notify all bidders that we're going to have this meeting. By what process do we do that? How do we know who the bidders are to notify them? And
we work with DEMPED. We work with DEMPED as the.
Well, that's what I was suggesting, is that DEMPED bear the responsibility of notifying prospective bidders that ANC will
Okay.
host 2 meetings on X date and Y. We fix dates. DIMPED notifies, puts in its notifications to all prospective bidders that ANC will host a meeting on X date and Y date. And if you want to participate, come at it. That's all I'm suggesting. It's
Yeah,
just a
that
different
makes sense.
manner of a different manner of notification that doesn't make us vulnerable to, well, you met with these, but you didn't meet with those.
But
That's what I'm worried about.
here's the issue though, Mike, and then I'm gonna go to Gosselin and Lynch. We don't know when people are going to bid, and that is a big factor. You could send out, they have until the 18th. DIMPED, we might go to DIMPED tomorrow and say, this is what we want to do. They don't know who all the bidders is. They don't know who a bidder is,
Right, but we could,
until the bid
but
comes
Lisa,
in.
but could we set our informational meetings after the bids close? I mean, if the bids close, does that make a difference in terms of are we going to be called upon? Let me just ask you this: are we going to be called on to make a recommendation
Yes.
as to what? So then, why
Yes.
can't we hold the meetings, these information meetings that Bruce is suggesting, and I'm starting to pick on the perimeter of? Why can't we do them after they are all in? Now everyone has submitted their bids, and
because I think, Michael, part of the bid is the community engagement piece that they're trying to address in the RFP. So I think that's part of it. So if they did it afterwards, which we absolutely could. But I think one of the things Bruce was trying to get at is to give community more attention to what's going into their bid. And making sure that community is aware of what some of these development teams are saying. And if we do it post, then we kind of miss that aspect to it. Let me go to Gosselin, Lynch, and then Nash.
okay.
Peter, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I've already agreed that I'm going to explore with DEMPED and with other communities what we should do after the proposals have dropped, after they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I sympathize with Bruce's view that this is a huge issue, maybe the biggest that will be faced in our time in this community, how we lay the groundwork for some change in the commercial corridor. And that I think that my proposal is that Bruce and I talked to DEMPED about whether we can hear who the developers are, or whether, per Michael Zeldin's suggestion, they can tell the developers that we are prepared, the ANC is prepared to moderate meetings, 2 meetings in May and early June. I know you don't like this idea, Lisa, so I'm trying to say that others will take the lead on this, and that we'll see. Maybe they'll say, oh no, that would be unfair. We'll see what DEMPED said, but I think we can come back to you with a proposal.
Well, what I would suggest is that you also contact OAG. I think with this perspective, since it is, I just think these are sensitive issues when you're talking RFPs and making sure that, and Michael brought up a good point, there absolutely can be challenges to this RFP in the process. I would suggest that if this is something you want to do, you also clear it with OAG. That's how serious it is to me.
I would say, I think we're tying our hands with legalisms here.
Oh, well, but you know what? It's an RFP. It's a legal process. I mean,
Lisa, we got legal guidance.
if we're gonna get, want to do this right and make sure that we do not taint this process, absolutely, I would recommend we get an OAG opinion on it.
But we got the OANC legal opinion already.
Hey, well, but this is different, Bruce. This is not them contacting us and us meeting. We are talking about opening up to the community within various stages of the RFP process. This is to me very different, and I would just clarify that with OANC, OAG to make sure we're on the right path. That's all that I would ask.
Really. I think we should just, and we're going to need to move on, and I think that we could come back with more information from DEMPED and OAG. Yeah, for you, and that would help this discussion, or maybe end it.
Right. Yeah, but at least we'll be on solid ground. Commissioner Nash?
Yeah, I also would like to move on, but before we do, my 2 cents worth, not being a lawyer, is I don't see why it should be a problem if the people who put their RFPs in earlier meet with us. If you put in your RFP, by the transom at the last minute, that is already cutting you off from much community engagement, isn't it? And so why not, if people are going to put them in earlier and thereby be more open to working and listening to the community, why should they not have the supposed advantage of meeting with the community? Because they've made it possible. The latecomers, the people who come late, did not. Okay, well, you should have done it earlier.
Yeah, but it doesn't legally kind of
Yeah.
work that
I
way.
know
Yeah.
legally.
I mean, when you're dealing
Right.
with the RFP, I mean, like Michael said at best, it has got to be fair.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you're right. If the development team, and that's why I prefer for development teams to do that, and maybe we want to, I don't know, first I think Peter's right. We got to work with DEMPED to see what we can and cannot do, how we can reach out, because there are over 100 people, development teams that showed up. Now, does that mean 100 are going to be out there putting in? I don't know, but there is over 100, I believe, that showed up. That's a lot. So that's what I'm saying. Logistically, we got to think about that. We got to think about how it's going to be a fair process. If they want to do it with the community, which I think is the best option, and they should all be doing that, then, they could put in their proposal that they had XYZ number of community meetings. Here's what they heard, and here's how their proposal meets the criteria that the community is talking about. And I just think that's the safest route. But we'll get guidance on this from OAG and Office of ANC and see what they say. Commissioner Lynch?
Yeah, all for being above board on all this stuff. I was wondering maybe we could have a situation sort of like a college fair where we have these groups come through and people that are interested in giving their input about what they'd like to see at the Civic Core could meet individually with each group and tell them and have the opportunity to hear what they have planned for the site as well. And I think that would be fair for anybody given proper notice to show up and both tell the community about their ideas and then hear from people that have strong ideas about what they like at the Civic Core. So I think we should do that before someone is chosen, because that can weave into the process of what these bidders will include in their plans and ultimately get a site that is what this community wants. So
Yep.
I hope we do this.
I think we're all saying the same thing. And I think once we, hear back from OANC and OAG on if OANC says it's good, I'm good with that guidance. We just got to make sure we tell them what we're trying to do, which is a little different than meeting with developers that approach us. We're trying to do something a little bit more proactively throughout the process.
And I thought, again, that's what they were articulating as opposed to individual meetings. I would just add, for the collective benefit of the group, if any of us have already had individual meetings with bidders, all the more reason to have public meetings.
So I think we're leaving this at Bruce and I are going to talk to DEMPED and OAG and come back with either with a proposal or with what we've learned. Reasonable?
Peter, I would only amend that to say, let's talk to the OANC again, just quickly on the guidance, because the OAG may take days to get an answer. OAG.
Yeah, I agree.
Quickly.
Yep.
By the way, again, I can explain the nuance of what we're approaching and what we're talking about now. But Denise will probably look at this and say, I already gave you guys the guidance, but I'll ask her. I'll ask her.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different, Bruce, between
I do
what she
too.
told us and what we're proposing, but
Okay.
we'll find that out. But I just wanted to ask one question, because you just said something which perked my ears up. Has any commissioner met individually with developers after we were told not to do that?
I did. I talked to Vicky Davis after we were told.
We weren't
Well-
told not to do that.
Yes,
Right.
we were.
No, we
I
weren't.
thought
No, we
Owen-
weren't. No, we weren't.
What did ONC say, Bruce, in their letter?
I shared it with everybody. Just check
Yeah.
your.
They
Yeah.
advised, they did not say, Michael, that we could not do it. Their advice was, and best
Not to.
practice was to have someone with you when you did it, but they did not say not that you could not do that. So we talked about that at the last meeting.
Yeah,
That's
no, they said that we shouldn't. We were
Right,
ill
but
advised.
it's up to the individual commissioner if that's what they want to do. It's up to the commissioner, as long as we report it, and
Okay.
we can't prevent commissioners from doing that.
No, I totally understand that, and I'm sure it's all above board. I'm simply saying that if we're discussing how to do it as a group, when we've already had individual meetings, I mean, so we'll get the guidance from the ONC.
Yes, and you guys got to mention that nuance, because I agree with Michael. This is something a little different that we're proposing. It's not the same to me.
Let me just say, we have 7 items on this agenda. We're not
Okay, let's go. Next one.
done
Let's
yet.
go. Let's go.
Should we just move on? I mean, there are a bunch of hot near-term issues. The Lafayette Field, bio retention basin, so on. I think we're just going to have to see how those develop. We want to go on to council testimony. That's a little confusing too, because of course the budget just got delayed, and what we've, I think, agreed to is that we've lost the performance oversight chapter. We got to go on to budget. But
Yep.
Has anybody read when the mayor does plan to release the budget?
I haven't seen anything on it.
I thought it was today.
Huh?
Oh,
I thought it was
yeah,
today.
but they punted.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not ready. But we do have people that, so
I volunteer.
Yeah.
PPR.
we have at the last minute, everyone that volunteered for their testimony. I'm working with Michael on the DCPS one. And I think, Bruce signed up for something. Peter, you signed up for something. So unless there's other commissioners that have additional one, but it might give us a little.
I signed up.
Yep. Yeah, you signed up. So it might give us a little bit more time, but just for folks that signed up, we're trying to get the DCPS one at this next meeting. But with the budget being a little delayed, we might have a little bit more leeway in the hearing schedule. So that might give us a little bit more time, but try to get your testimonies, as soon as possible.
Yeah, so Lisa, just so people know, especially Peter Lynch, I've written draft testimony. I think, Bruce, you've looked at it some, and Lisa is looking at it now. And then I'm going to circulate it to everybody for the next round of comments.
This is
And
for
the-
this coming Monday?
This is for, well, what Lisa is suggesting now is that we may be able to slip it if the budget is slipped, but my hope was, yes, to get this thing out to you guys tonight or tomorrow to review in preparation for Monday's meeting. And I've circulated today the Lafayette Field resolution for Monday's meeting.
Yeah. So we should be able to take a vote on both on Monday.
And Michael Zeldin, I don't know how much your draft goes into depth about Lafayette, but I'm happy to add merch specific issues to the draft if that's helpful.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, Zach. I saw what you wrote, and so when Lisa finishes, what I'd like to do is circulate, because I know Peter Lynch has ideas and you have ideas, and what I hope to do is build out the testimony as fully as possible.
Yeah.
Great, sounds good.
Okay. Anything else, folks, on testimony?
Should somebody be the gatekeeper for that and list keeper for who's doing what and when they've got it? Because this is like performance oversight can easily fall through the cracks.
I'll send a schedule of what the dates are as of now. And
And
if you're you know, doing testimony, just pay attention to the date and the meeting schedule, and I'll go through that. But you know, you got to get it approved by the commission in time for testimony. That's the tricky part. And so, just think you kind of backtrack it to get it to the commissioners in time. And usually it's not, these testimonies are not controversial. It's generally pretty much stuff we all agree on. People might want to add a little bit to it, like Zach wants to add merch. That's generally what you'll get, but they're not super controversial. Anything else on testimony, folks?
Does the testimony, do we send that around by email, or does it have to be done at a meeting?
No, send it on email, please.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
Michael, the education budget testimony, are you thinking of including specific demands for budgets across the city, or just at Lafayette, or what sort of demands are on the resolved piece are you looking at?
Michael, you're on mute.
They are similar to, though not overlapping completely, with the structure of the letter that you were circulating, Peter. So it says, here's the problem and here's what we'd like to see you do. So it's set up in that way, more sort of in a little bit, to my view, consistent with the way testimony is presented, as opposed to sort of a petition from the community, which, you know, is more of a demand, and this is more of a conversation. So you'll see what it looks. But as I reviewed past testimony that I wrote and what we've submitted over the years, I tried to have the manner in which I wrote the language consistent with the manner in which we've written testimony in the past.
So if I understand it, are you still sort of seeking DCPS to explain and come talk to and have a conversation with us about where they stand on the budget, as opposed to making asks about the budget?
Both.
Do you have the ask? Well, I guess I'll wait to see it.
Yeah, that would be a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, happy to see it.
You know, I'm waiting to send it to you. You're my primary audience.
I will be up tonight, and I will get it out to you guys. I'll get it back to you, Michael, and then you can take it from there.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on testimony, guys? All right. Well, just in advance, thank you, because this is great. From first year to this year, we have a lot more going out. And I've always said that our performance oversight and budget oversight testimony is the most important thing that we can do. Peter?
Yeah, this actually just occurred to me. I was going to do personal testimony on the budget that's appropriated to DC statehood issues. And I'm not sure where everybody stands on that, but if folks are interested in signing on to that, I can pass around what I'm thinking of. There's basically, the issue is that very little money is put towards DC statehood efforts, and hopefully it would be more.
That's great.
But I think that the Statehood Commission is receiving testimony up until the end of, well, I guess end of March next week. So
okay.
that's just keep that in mind.
All right. Yeah, Peter, send that around as a, to everyone, because that might be something that everybody would be willing to join in on. I don't think this commission has ever had testimony on statehood, so I think that's a great thing.
Okay.
All right. Anything else, folks, on that? Okay. Near term, wait a minute. Peter, I'm looking at your agenda.
3,
I didn't do the agenda, so I'm like trying to figure out.
sharing and performance. This is basically to talk about the, the meetings, the administrative stuff, the minutes, the video, the webmastering,
Okay.
how we share that. And it may bleed into number 4, which is the issue of hiring help. But I think you're going to discover that we need to make some decisions about the stuff we do, the grunt work we do, even if we hire help. I mean, the help is an easy out, but I mean, let me
Well,
start. Go ahead, you start.
if we definitely got, I mean, all last year, everything that the paid administrative assistant would do, I've been pretty much doing. And Peter has helped out a lot on the meeting setups and a lot of stuff with DPR. So I think, between us two as chair and vice chair, we've been carrying all the administrative burden, and it's difficult, to say the least. It is exhausting. Our administrative work, the way this, and I've said this before, this commission is very different from other commissions across the city.
Oh, you froze. Hello. It was such a stunning point. She froze.
Yeah, I can finish her sentence. That is to say, we work 4 times harder than and have 6 times more meetings than our fellow ANC across the city. So that's why we're paid much more.
So, dispensing with patting ourselves on the back, on administrative, for the time being, I'm going to take over the issue of getting agendas out, because Lisa's completely busy with the work she's doing for our ANC and for running for office. So I'll take over that. But I do think that we need to agree among ourselves about a system for taking responsibility for getting other things out. For example, it seems to me that it would work better if the person who either commits to, like, raises an issue either in resolution form or as seeking approval for a letter, then sees that letter through to final form acceptable by the commission, and then finds out who to get it to. I just had to do one for BZA, and it turns out there's a BZA submission site plus getting it to the chair, and that all takes time. But if you feel strongly enough to want to push for a commission approved letter or a resolution, then just take it to the end, and it's your responsibility to get the final approval for the language and get it out to the right people. That seems sensible.
Yep.
Yeah, and I would add that I've been adding our resolutions to the ANC portal. There's a portal where every ANC is advised to put the resolutions, and like DDOT says, that's how they want to receive resolutions. So some agencies would like you to use the portal. So in that final step, you can, of course, you can email it to the agency directly, but I would send it, make sure I get a copy, and if I get the final copy, I will upload them like I have been to the portal.
Good.
So just on that, Zach, say a little bit more. Uploading them to the portal. You mean to the ANC website?
No,
There is a website. There's a website dedicated where you can search any ANC resolution publicly. It's a great resource. Not many people know about it. I didn't know about it till late last year, and so last year I uploaded all of our resolutions and I tracked them. And so and actually DDOT said, hey, thank you for emailing this, but put it in the portal.
Okay.
So
that's the mandate, because not only they're supposed to also respond based off of that. So that's where they go and actually look for those resolutions, and it's sent to everybody that, you can select the agencies that need to see it.
Okay, I didn't know that. Gosh, I'm glad we're
Oh,
talking.
yeah.
I'm glad we're talking. That's great to know. Yeah. So
And you
Zach,
can, and like Zach was saying, you can search. So like if you want to go in and see, like just say Ivy City, you want to go in and see what other ANCs might have on, a certain topic, you can put that in the search box and it'll come up.
so
Where is the ANC portal? Well, I mean, how do you
I'm gonna-
find it?
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah.
I think I could send it to everyone.
ANC, yeah.
Yeah, resolutions.anc.dc.gov.
okay.
Hey, Zach, can you check, our resolution from February 26th on Lafayette has not made it onto our ANC web page?
Yes, it is.
That's a separate issue.
It's on the webpage.
It is? Well, then, I know what it is. It's our DCPS testimony from last commission. I'll look for it. I couldn't find it on the webpage.
Okay.
Okay, you're right about 26. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was looking at so many.
So just to be clear, so I understand, Zach, you do that posting, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, okay. So any resolution that we approve, this goes to Peter Gosselin's point about seeing things through to completion, right? So you actually already go ahead and take any approved resolution that's signed and so forth and ready for distribution and post it to the portal.
That's right. And so last year, I did this later in the year and I tracked, I had to track down some resolutions. It was hard to find a few of them. So I have a spreadsheet of every resolution, when it was submitted. And one catch for this, for everyone to know, is you only can pick one agency to send it to. So sometimes we have, 4 agencies we're trying to send it to, but I try to do my best. I talk to the resolution. Usually it's obvious, but just for everyone to know, it only goes to one agency.
Okay. Well,
Zach,
thank you.
would it be easier for you if I sent you, we all sent you the resolutions? Or
Yeah, I mean, typically we do send out we'll email the DDOT director and we'll CC all commissioners. So often it's a matter of course that I get these, and that's my preference, is I like to see the final resolution being sent out. So as long as you can do that, if you're sending it privately without all the commissioners CC, just make sure I get it.
So he's saying, Jim, he gets it when we send it out to all agencies. So the resolution goes out, the agencies are copied, everyone on the commission is copied, and based off of that email, Zach pulls the resolution and puts it in a portal.
okay, but what we're talking about now is if we pass a resolution, it is up to us to decide which agency it goes to.
This is just a technicality that on the resolution portal website, you only get to pick one agency. So, and some of it's kind of strange, like the executive office of the mayor versus the mayor's chief of staff. Some of it's a little technical, but
no, but
we have
I'm trying to get clearer on this process question. Peter said, when you pass a resolution, see it through to the end.
Yeah.
So that means that if I pass a resolution related to DDOT, it's up to me to send it to DDOT.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. What do you mean, Peter, then?
Let me just say, Lisa, while you were offline, I said I was taking over the responsibility for getting agendas out. But I thought that people ought to commissioners who lead on issues such as letters, such as the letter we sent to BZA from our last meeting, or resolutions, the commissioner who proposes it ought to take responsibility for cleaning up the language after the fact of the meeting, getting it around to fellow commissioners, and once final version is approved, getting it distributed to the district. Zach is taking a piece of that, which is getting it into the portal. But for example, on the letter to BZA about the parking lot last week, it turns out that not only you need to send it to the chair of BZA, but BZA has a special BZA submissions site. And so I got that, I sent that to all the concerned parties, including to the lawyer for the the owners of the property. I think that's a responsibility that ought to lie with the commissioner who leads on an issue. Otherwise, it's either going to lie with you or the secretary or the vice chair. And so
Yeah. And we've gone over this, and I do think that regardless, I think the chair should send the resolutions, letters, as we have in our bylaws. And if the chair says I need somebody else to send it, then somebody else sends it.
okay, but then let's be realistic about this immediate period of time. Do you really want that duty on you? Because frankly, we
Yeah.
need.
So we're talking about, right. Let's get to the subject, because I don't want to change commission, because all this you're decentralizing responsibility to a bunch of people that have never done that. And it's in our bylaws a certain way. So we shouldn't allow one condition to change that course of action. So what I would suggest is that we keep it the way it is. And like I've been doing, and I've asked Bruce to send stuff out. I've asked you to send stuff out. But if there's something that I feel that I need to send out or that I can send out and I have the time to send out, then I'll do that. But if I run into trouble, I'll ask you guys to do that.
What I would say first to Jim. So you're right. I'm wrong. Lisa wants to do it a different way. I will say to Lisa, you better ask on a regular basis, because in this period we haven't been getting stuff out in a timely way, and I'm certainly happy to pitch in. I'm already pitching in on agenda, but waiting around for the nod can mean that stuff gets out really late. So
I think the last couple of times, Peter, we've done that. I think Bruce sent out the last 3. Right?
Right.
Okay. So there we go.
So just see, Jim, to clarify, because while Lisa was offline, I had a proposal that I thought made sense, but apparently is not accepted. But so what happens is that the commissioner who leads on an issue, whether a letter or a resolution, needs to clean it up, get it to Lisa, and Lisa will decide whether she will send it or whether she will delegate the sending. And in any case, that is all separate from what Zach is doing.
Right.
Which is getting it into this chute down to downtown, this electronic chute downtown.
But just again, because this is new to me. What Zach is doing is an official conveyance at the same time, correct? Because it goes to the portal where the agencies actually look to these.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. In other words, when we want to be able to certify that we submitted something, I'm assuming it's that portal that constitutes the official transmittal. Is that correct? I'm just trying to understand.
I don't think, Bruce, I'm not sure it is, because, for example, I just dove deep on BZA, right?
Right. Well, that's yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But that's not a resolution.
It's not a resolution.
It's not a resolution, but BZA has something called BZA submissions.
Right.
And they want it there, and their website says they want it there. Now, they may also want it at the portal, but so I guess it's not official if you don't put it in the portal, but it's for certain agencies, it's not official if you don't also get it to them by the separate routes they've picked.
And it's not mandatory also, Bruce.
To put it in the portal?
Right.
It's not.
And
Oh,
many
a lot of
ANCs don't.
a lot of ANCs don't use the portal.
oh, okay. Okay.
It's best practice too, though. They want you to. Yeah. Okay. So the other issue I would think we probably want to see, and we've asked before, if anyone wants to help take over webmastering, take over posting Facebook, Twitter, social media, if there's other ways that people want to jump in and help administratively, until we get administrative help. Speak up. Peter Lynch.
Yeah, I'm happy to help out with Twitter and Facebook. So
okay, you want to take that over?
Lisa, I'm happy to I'm happy to do, well, when when Peter says Facebook, that means Chevy Chase Chatter? Is that what
No.
Facebook is, or our Facebook?
I mean, our Facebook.
Okay, because I'm happy to do Chevy Chase Chatter. I'm happy to do listserv. I know Bruce is good on the listserv, but I'm happy to do the Chevy Chase Chatter on Facebook. I am not on the Google group
But the
one.
big trick here, Lisa, is the webmastering, right?
Yeah.
I could do a little bit of the web stuff. I don't know if I could be a consistent. I'd have to see it and just work. I mean, it's just WordPress, right?
No, well, it is WordPress, but then we have table press. We have different things within it. So
Yeah.
it's not just WordPress. So the webmastering has got to be like, I learned it from Connie Chang. And Connie sat down. We sat down. You got to sit down and you got to like kind of do it together.
Part of our great oral tradition.
Yeah. But on the Facebook and Twitter, just to let you know, Peter Lynch. So I'll in a separate email send you the passwords and stuff over. Just know like when that agenda comes out, you got to get that posted up there because we count that as one of the notification ways. And so the thing that we got to be careful with is we all got certain things that we're taking on. And when I posted on the website, that's only one post and we got to have another. So if somebody's doing Facebook or Twitter or Chevy Chase, we got to come through when those agendas. So I used to do it all, but if we're going to split it, I'm good with that. We just got to come through on that.
Yeah, I can take Twitter and Facebook at least. I'm
Okay.
good.
Great.
We're going to do somebody doing the social media, not our Facebook, but social, posting the agenda. There are 4 sites that we post on: Listserv, Nextdoor, Chatter, and Chevy Chase Google Group. If you're going to do it on a couple, do it on all of them. I mean, and I have bookmarked. I can send you the links, but I mean, just do it on all of them, because what you do is you type out a note that as a topper and put, for example, paste the agenda, just copy it and put it in all the rest of them. I mean, splitting it up is a recipe for sometimes the listserv gets it and sometimes the listserv doesn't get it. Sometimes Nextdoor does or doesn't. Just take the whole ball of wax. I mean, it's hardly a big incremental jump in duty, because you got to tape out the note anyways and you got to paste it. So seem reasonable?
Yep. Yep, that makes sense. I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
We think about what our tasks are that we would need to hire someone to do. We've already talked about technical support, and as you know, we have an announcement posted for that, which we can come back and talk about in 1 second. The webmaster or the managing the web, I understand to be a separate kind of discrete task. Is that fair in terms of
from the admin?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is there something beyond those two, since we've talked about hiring one person for all of the above, but if we actually had a webmaster, say, who took care of the web management piece, would we not then satisfy another major area of concern to us and ease the administrative burden on Lisa, on you, or anybody else at the moment?
Well, let me suggest, I think there are a number of areas. I mean, for example, webmastering is a big burden. Being sure these resolutions and letters that go in is a big burden. Agendas, and also dealing with DPR. I can't tell you how complicated that is, because they have an awful online permitting system. So every one of these meetings we have, I've spent, I basically ended up begging DPR officials to let me have the meeting, give me the permit. Once we have an administrative assistant, a lot of the grunt work can be done by the administrative assistant, but some commissioner has to take responsibility for being sure it's done. Being double checking on that, because otherwise we're going to discover ourselves with a hybrid meeting and no permit to get.
That's built into the bylaws also. And if I remember, the secretary has a responsibility of, secretary and chair, I believe, have a responsibility of supervising staff.
All I'm trying to say is it's not a waste of time to try to figure out who's going to do some of these duties, because even if we can pass it off on the assistant, there's got to be some oversight.
Yeah, that's the secretary and chair. You're going to be supervising an employee.
So that job description, Peter Goslin, would entail all of the above that you just mentioned. Being the liaison, if you will, with DPR, posting announcements, doing the webmaster, if we believe one person could roll up all of those talents and areas of expertise, which doesn't seem to be, beyond the pale. Then we would have all that taken care of. Then we have the technical support as kind of a discrete piece, which we're already dealing with.
Right.
Okay.
But then I think there should be a third piece, and a third piece would be the unexpected. Because, for example, I'm thinking of when we were sending out all those postcards for the survey, some administrative help would have been great for some of those tasks.
Right.
So, Bruce, in other words, there are some tasks that the person should know this is what's happening. I think we should leave in the job description space for special projects, things that
And
come
we
up.
do. And we have, just to maybe cut the conversation short a little bit, we have a job description.
Okay.
Because remember, this commission had an administrative assistant for years. They only quit, what, Peter, the last commission under Randy, right? You're on mute.
Just at the very end, yeah.
Yeah, just at the very end. So we've always had, always had an administrative assistant. They've always had a job description. When we were looking to hire, the previous commission polished it up. And so there's a very thorough job description out there. And we can resend it and circulate it and make sure this commission agrees with it, but it's fairly thorough.
So is this the appropriate time to sort of ask out loud what our feeling is about going forward with that? I know we've been talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, for the administrative assistant?
Yeah, post an announcement, right? Hire somebody. Yeah, are we kind of talking about that tonight, like pulling the trigger on that and making a commitment to putting an announcement out? What are we thinking?
I thought we said we were going to do that.
Yeah,
We did
me
the
too.
technical support piece, but I didn't know about the admin part.
Maybe we could talk about that during the personnel. I just wanted to cover something more immediate, March 25th. So Peter Goslin, you won't be there. You obviously, you do the bulk of the work. You really assemble and disassemble that machinery. Are we prepared for your absence come our next hybrid meeting?
I don't know. I think you better get Kent Bose to come out here because
we need to get Kent Bays back. Yeah.
I just think that I just can't be there. And there's no early way to do this.
Yeah, we need to get Kent back out there. We can't do that.
I think that's the fallback for right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we need to, because if Kent's busy or something, he can't make it, then we're in,
Well, he has there's some tech people who, Ronald Gaither, and he's got some tech people who can.
Yeah, he's not the only.
Okay.
Anything else on the admin part before we go into closed session on the personnel part?
Oh, you wanted to discuss minutes and video, and that's the next bullet under.
Okay.
Wait, I had a question. Where are we in the hiring of the administrative assistant process?
We're gonna go into closed session on that now.
Oh, okay.
So minutes. Well, I think we're good on video posting. Because we got yeah. But minutes, I wanted to make sure the commission saw the new format of the minutes that Bruce has. I want to make sure we discuss that because I've heard, honestly, some people like it. I've heard some people don't like it. So I just want to, get a feel for what people are comfortable with, and whatever we, go with, I think we should all support. So I just want to hear y'all's feedback on the new format of the minutes. And Bruce, you can maybe start off by just kind of talking about what that format is, how you got there, what it looks like.
Yeah, well, I've kind of covered this several times. One, when I did the first version, I sent it out to everybody and said, give me your feedback. And I only got feedback from, I think Michael said he was okay and whatever. So there was
You know how we are. You know how we are.
there was a first pass at getting your feedback on those minutes. This was like in late January, early February. So the idea is, of course, post the video. And as you know, as has been the tradition at the posting on YouTube, we do the minute breakdown. The meeting itself is kind of deconstructed into components, parts, and the minute markers are identified. So people can kind of quickly go through the video and identify where they are. There's also a transcript of these meetings that we have in reserve if someone wants a full transcript. And then the minutes, in the way I've done them, is more of a summary of the meeting that also identifies the segments of the meeting. The minute markers are also there, and the timestamps, and then kind of a synopsis of what that particular segment had to do with. The difference between what I'm doing and what Jim was doing before is I don't identify who said what at every turn and so forth and so on. I do identify a vote that's been taken so that we know what the vote was, we know who voted, and to your point earlier, Lisa, about if it's a split vote, then we identify the commissioners who voted one way or the other. So all that's being taken care of. It's just a more summary view. And I think we have to ask ourselves, what's the public demand for these?
Yeah.
What itch are we scratching by doing long minutes? Yeah, so that's kind of where I am.
Okay, Zach.
Yeah, I like the format. I think it's helpful because I think one of the tricks, I tried to sometimes help edit Jim's minutes, and I think it's so tricky to try to paraphrase a commissioner's point of view because you're trying to, I don't know. I think if you just say, here's the topic, here's so I think this more general, and again, the video's there for people to see verbatim quotes and things. So I think the shorter versions is good.
Okay. Anyone else?
Well, let me say, if it takes you less time, then that's a good thing in its favor. Less time than it took me. I'm hoping it does. Secondly, I have not heard anyone complain about this format, and that would be my only concern is, are there people out there who have trouble with the new format?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from any, but has anyone?
Yeah, I said that in the beginning. I've heard from people. Yes.
But many, and what is their
Nope.
problem with it?
They just didn't like it. And I think it's probably because they're used to the traditional format. They've been following ANC for a while, and our minutes have always been kind of like books. So there are going to be some people that are going to, take issue with that, and that's fine.
Has anyone else heard something like that?
No, everyone that I've ever spoken to that's read the minutes, which are very few and far between, are happy with it. And I would not change a thing if this is an easier process.
Right.
I would also note that if
Agreed.
you go to the YouTube site and you look at the number of times meetings have been viewed, that's probably a little better barometer of how much consultation there is as to our meetings, because to Zach's point, people want to hear what somebody had to say. Generally, they want to go and listen to and watch the videotape.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it makes me even think that the whole idea of minutes is somewhat outmoded or outdated now with what you can get on YouTube so easily.
Yeah, it's a requirement though, is it not, Lisa, that we must have minutes? Isn't that part of the ANC's obligation?
Lisa's frozen. She'll come back in a minute.
I think it is. It's
Yeah,
still,
well, we're checking that box, Michael, by kind of not notionally, but the way in which we're approaching the meeting summary minutes, what have you now. But yeah.
I think you could call them minutes, maybe, if you put them in air quotes.
The thing that we do need to talk about, though, is minutes from committee meetings. Because we don't have consistent meeting minutes from committees. I am posting the Raise Committee meetings, and I'm doing the breakout again by segment, but there is no there are no minutes that I'm aware of those meetings. And I'm also not aware of any agendas that are posted for those meetings. I think we need, when we get to the committees, we need to take a look at that to make sure that we're operating consistent with our bylaws and the guidelines here.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a good segue.
The Murray Field Task Force, Jenny Backus does an exemplary job of keeping track of the meetings, posting agendas, identifying things, and so forth. She's doing a great job on that. We're just talking about minutes for committee meetings, Lisa, as we can segue into committees if you want at some point. But anyway, that's a separate related topic.
Okay.
Lisa, can I suggest that before we go into executive session or closed session and talk about the administrative assistant and tech help, under the next item, ANC process, I know that Jim has had some suggestions about meetings and about commissioner time to talk, and you've had some views about commissioner interaction with DC agencies, with downtown. Those are issues we could talk about.
Definitely. Yeah.
Maybe we ought to do the administrative, the ANC process, the ANC structure stuff, at least those two things before we go into executive session. I frankly,
For sure.
I'm not gonna make it way past 9:30 before I pass out.
Yeah.
And we haven't had the discussion about, which we really need, and I just don't know how to have, about commissioner relationship. Various.
Okay, well, what are we talking, Peter, you mentioned a number of things. What are we talking about right now?
Well, my suggestion, I think Lisa signed off on it, is to go to number 5 on the agenda, which is ANC process. That includes the thing you've raised about meeting process.
Okay, well, what I have to say, I can say briefly, I think, and it's this. I've gotten to the point where I can tell when we're going to have a lot of public testimony, people talking about an issue. And when we do that, I would like to volunteer to be a timekeeper. And what I would do is let the chair or whoever's in charge know that 3 minutes are up. And in the assumption that would stop the person talking. But also the second piece of it is, we have to, to decide a time. This agenda item will end at this time, and really stick to that. Okay, and then you end the public piece, let's say 20 minutes ahead of that, because that way every commissioner at least has the chance to talk for 3 minutes, which is the same amount that the community members have. Because I myself have felt frustrated, for example, on the historic preservation thing. I did want to say something about that, but there was no time. We were way over the time slotted for it. And the commissioners basically, just didn't have any time at all. And I would like to have at least as much time as someone in the community on an issue. And I think maybe other commissioners would too. So that's the second piece, is putting then allow, you must stop the public part with enough time for the commissioners to do it. Now, Lisa told me another option that other ANCs do is commissioners talk first on the issue and then the community does. But the trouble with that is that that does not allow us to respond to what we're hearing. And, I like to listen before I talk. So that is my proposal for that piece. And this, I would do the timekeeping and, just let them know. We don't have to do this at every meeting. I think we all know when it's going to be a meeting where a lot of people want to talk.
That's fine with me. I wish there was a way, honestly, that the community members aren't as repetitive as the ones. I mean, if there's a way we could say, all those who favor the color green, stand over here and appoint somebody to say, we like green. And then the pink and the purple people can speak. We get one on each voice and move forward. The redundancy is what takes up so much time. And I get it that we're a public group, but we're not making as much progress as we should, because on especially matters that are of some contention, you'll get the same exact thing said 24 times.
Yes,
And
Michael, there are two. Yeah.
And so
I've
maybe
heard
there's
two
a way to
forms of-
say, can I just say one thing, Jim? Maybe there's a way to say, after one or two people speak, if you've got something new to say or different to say, please come forward. But if you're, or we could say, can someone give us a show of hands of who supports that point of view? Something to facilitate us moving more expeditiously.
Right. Michael, you're right. And there are two types of repetition. One is within the time of a single speaker repetitiveness, because they go on too long, 5-6 minutes. I've documented some. The second form of repetition is among speakers. Now, that point you're raising is difficult for us to address, but we can at least cut down on the repetition of a single speaker, which we get a lot of, by limiting it to 3 minutes. But I agree, if we could find a way to reduce the second order of repetition, I'm all for it.
And just on that point, guys, though, I certainly understand the concern or your interest in this. But of course, as we know, every person's different. They're all individuals. And, they may say the same thing, but the old saying, it's all been said, but I haven't said it. So, it's like, Lisa said it earlier, democracy is messy. It's kind of the way it is, right?
Yeah. But at least if we keep people to 3 minutes, I think that will help if we're all on board with that, and we can, and look, what I'm suggesting is we get no more time than people in the community. If we want it, we all are treated with 3 minutes, but I do think that we should be ensured of having that if we want it. And
Yeah.
I have felt that simply that's not been my experience, especially with the Civic Core stuff, but even with historic preservation.
Yeah, I guess I would disagree in the sense that I liked it better when we had more time than the community. I get it that we're a voice of the community, but we're also voting on things. We're representing the community. We're representing people who are not just at the meeting. We're representing, as my view is that we're representing the best interests of the city at large. So this notion that we've been somehow in the interests of democracy, if that's what it is in the interest of, I'm not so sure it is, relegated ourselves to sort of bystanders. I just don't. I think we've put it on. I think we've turned it on its head from where it was when we.
So, Michael, would you say
point
that?
of view.
So then, do you think we should have 5 minutes?
No, that's too long. What I would say, Michael, you could answer, but let me interject. And I kind of, I definitely understand where Michael is coming from, because that's kind of how we operated under the old commission. And I do think we, under this commission, have made a big effort to try to get more community engagement out there. And 3 minutes, you guys, is a long time. That's a long time. And, most speeches, you get 2 or 1 minute. So we might want to consider, and what I have found, for me as chair, I am trying to give deference to the community. So if I see folks up there and we're trying to get through the issue, I'm trying to get everybody in to speak as much as I can within that time limit. We might want to consider going to a minute, not every meeting, but in meetings where we know the topic is going to be controversial, a lot of people are going to speak, we might want to consider going to a minute. The only thing that I ask of the commission, and what I'll tell you and be honest with, from both the commission, and this is just my perspective as chair, from the commission side and from the community side, nobody obeys the rules. We have a tendency as a commission, and what happens as with me as a chair, I catch the heat every time. If I cut the community off, Lisa's the devil. If I put up the timer, which I've done, Lisa's the devil. If I cut off a commissioner, Lisa's the devil. Some commissioner is going to overtalk me.
Right.
So
But
you
see,
know what I'm
that-
saying?
Yeah, but
Whatever
that's
we
why it
agree
shouldn't
on,
be, it shouldn't be.
whatever we
so
agree
Lisa.
on doing, we have to agree to do it. And if we're going to say that we're going to give the community and do the agenda topic, I'm putting time in for a topic, maybe an hour. And I'm in my head, 30 minutes for community, 30 minutes for commission.
Yeah.
But we never kind of get there. We got people in the community that are going to overtalk, you know? If you tell them to stop at the mic, they're going to keep on going. So as a commission, we got to decide, you know, how we're going to run the meeting. That's the major thing, because that's what the community is going to get accustomed to. And if we're going to say 1 minute hard stop, then we all got to agree on that. And there's been times where commissioners have said, where I've said, your time is up. And some people I've had commissioners say, no, we'll give that person another time.
No,
And
we
so then
can't-
I
we
have a
can't-
choice.
You can't do that.
I have a choice to make whether I'm going to combat and get argumentative with a commissioner, or I'm going to give the community member time.
All right, well, Lisa, I like your 1 minute idea on the top when we have a big crowd, and we all kind of know when that is. So, but what you're saying, Lisa, is this should be a unanimous agreement among all of us.
It has to. And
Yeah.
it's beyond a unanimous agreement. I'm talking about commitment here.
But I'm committing to keeping time and saying your time is up and doing whatever you want me to do to help you enforce this rule.
Good, turn off the mic after the minute.
Oh, I'm completely in favor of Jim being the bad guy.
Yes, me too.
And I'm
No,
very
we should
happy to
get
do
Jim a
that.
hat. Jim needs a hat.
Yeah, no, I wish I had been a policeman.
Oh, no, you don't.
No, just that's in my head. That's just in my head, Lisa. So this is my way of playing policeman.
I love it. Yeah,
So
I think we can. I mean, if the commission is, okay with that, maybe we can do some flexibility with how much time we're giving folks to speak. And I do agree with Michael. We gotta give ourselves a lot of time to deliberate on the discussion. And we have cut that short.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, so then you can, I am at your service. So, you tell me whatever you want me to do or not do, and I'll do it at these meetings so that you're not the bad guy or the devil or whatever. Okay.
All right.
But I think we can move on, can't we?
Commissioners.
Fine with me.
Go they? Yeah.
All right. So Peter, I'm on my phone. I think the next, because I had the agenda up on the phone.
So the
We're at the bottom of the list. What was that? It was something at the very bottom.
Well, you wanted to talk about commissioner interaction with DC agencies. You want to do that or you want to pass?
Oh, well, I would just say that definitely, and this is specific to DMPED, with this process, there's confusion when they see emails coming from individual commissioners. And that's why I clarified Peter Lynch's email when he asked for the meeting. They're very hesitant if they think it's not coming from the commission, and they will call me and say, is this something that the commission wants, or is this something that an individual commissioner wants? So I think especially on the Civic Core, because that's mainly where we're having the issue, if there's something that you guys want the commission to take on as a whole, that we get that buy-in from the commission before we send the email. And I do think, regardless of who's chair, when you're dealing with agencies like that, because they're going to call the chair. That's they're going to call the chair. That's the point person. And if they see it coming individually, unless they know that it's something, you know, specific to an SMD or something like that, we just got to make it, you know, as easy as we possibly can on them. And I think that will help. Because otherwise they're going to be hesitant to respond. They're going to be reaching out to the chair, vice chair to figure out what's going on. And it's just going to delay it. So that's just, you know, how some of these agencies are going to interact, but particularly on the civic core issues. Peter Gosselin.
Well, this much I agree with. We live by, or we try to live by Robert's Rules of Order in meetings. And it seems to me that having an orderly process, talking to downtown, is a good thing to have, and it should go through the chair. But I'd just like to say that in return, the chair has to speak for all of us. And DEMPED or whatever agency is speaking to us understands that they're speaking to the whole commission. DEMPED has been, I have been very upset with DEMPED. I was deeply involved in the early discussions last year about the Civic Core. And apparently I was too disagreeable in some way. And so Jill simply stopped talking. Well, that isn't his right. You know, whether he likes it or not, whether it's a small office or not, I'm an elected official here, and it's in my purview to hear about these responses. And so I don't think the agency should have private relations with individual commission members, and that includes the chair. I think that the chair has to be speaking for the whole commission and report back to the whole commission.
So I'm just going to add on that. I think you're right, but I think, you know, one thing for everyone to keep in mind is people are people and people are human. And that was an issue between you and Jill's. And he felt like the conversation was not something that he wanted to engage in. And that impacted the relationship. So that's up to you guys to work that out. Peter Lynch.
Yeah, well, this is something that I've been concerned with as well, because it's happened with DIMPED and myself also. And I think it comes up with that commissioner respect piece that you all passed in the previous commission, but I think everybody tries to agree with here. It's come up a little bit with DCPS and Lafayette and Merch, and where you get into these places where, of course, everybody cares about Lafayette. That's everybody's concerned with that, even if it's Zeldin's SMD, or of course, everybody cares about the Civic Core, even though it's in my SMD. So I think to a lot of extent, we have done this, but continuing to where an issue, for instance, like the bioretention beds, matter to every commissioner, that we are all in on a conversation, even if one of these agency heads takes it upon themselves to only communicate with the chair or a commissioner in an SMD. I think it's fair to the other commissioners to try to bring that conversation back to the full commission if it's a issue that matters to everybody. Now, if it's an issue that just matters to an isolated SMD, and fine, but this has come up a fair amount. And I take your point, Lisa. There's, you know, the human interaction and just how people choose to quickly make communications, but I think it is something we could improve on.
Oh, definitely. 100%. Yeah. But, you know, just, you know, we all have to do better.
Well,
I'm
okay.
a little bit confused because my mother told me before she died that I was perfect, so I don't know how I can get better.
You know,
So,
this-
if you could
You're
just,
perfect, Michael.
if you could just send me a few notes on that, I'd appreciate it.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
Hey, are we gonna get to the administrative assistant?
Yep,
The
yep.
thing before, it's almost 9:30.
We are.
But I think I timed this to 9:30. I don't know if we're gonna, Zoom will lock us out.
All right. Anything else on this last subject that we just discussed? Let's go into closed session if not. Okay. So for community members, Chris and Elizabeth, I'm getting ready to, oh, thank you. Chris just logged off. Elizabeth, I'm getting ready to remove you because we are going in. Oh, she did. Thank you. That was so respectful. All right. So Bruce, do you want to give us an update on what you sent out and if we gotten any responses, and then we could talk about the hire or the announcement on the administrative assistant?
Yeah.
Do we want to stop the record? Just, I don't know. If
Oh,
it's
I'm
closed
sorry.
session. Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
not going to post
Peter,
this
can you
on.
do that?
What?
I think
Stop
I can
the
do it.
recording?
There's stop. Yeah.
Stop recording. I got it.
Good.